Well, welcome back, Siân Davey. Thank you so much for coming back to our little island. It's always a pleasure to have you because we had you in 2016 for the first exhibition for Looking for Alice.
Yeah.
And then we developed this friendship, let's face it. And then I've invited you to come back and to do this very special project as part of our sort of artist in residence program. For people who don't know, we invite once a year, once every 2 years, an international artist to come to the island to work on a specific angle of the island and then to restitute a body of work that we can keep on the island and develop this kind of beautiful contemporary photography collection. So when I asked you to come back, I had an idea in mind, but there's one thing I didn't know actually was about your background, a little bit more about your background, because I've asked you to develop a body of work about the farming community in Guernsey.
Yeah.
And my big surprise, I didn't realize, but you have a background in farming as well. I mean, your family history has some kind of link with the farming community. Do you want to talk briefly about that?
Well, yes. I mean, my mother's side, they're all farmers. And so my mother's brought up in a farm in Africa. And then I didn't actually live on a farm. I did live on a farm actually for some time, but the family, there were farms around and I used to go and stay on them a lot. I mean, I was definitely involved in the farming community and I used to hear about the Guernsey cow. Honestly, it just lodged in my brain, the Guernsey cow. So it was,
well, they are internationally famous.
They are. And so
it's a very famous breed.
It was a really delightful for me to be able to go into the farming community and, just the smells, just the kind of aesthetic, and it felt very, very familiar. And it was my happy place.
Yeah.
Going to the farm.
It's a very special place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very special place.
I think it's a very special place with very special people. But we're going to come back to the project about Guernsey. What I would like is to put this Guernsey project into the context of your whole body of work, your entire body of work. And I don't want to go back in details because we already had this big talk last night about where we discuss in details your project. But when we first invited you, we presented Looking for Alice.
Yeah.
I know your background as a psychotherapist also, and how Looking for Alice came as a sort of after some kind of epiphany after visiting an exhibition of Louise Bourgeois.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go back to that, but what have you learned from your experience of Looking for Alice and also maybe Martha as well, because both projects are concentrating on your stepdaughter Martha and Alice, your daughter. So what did you learn from that experience? How did you feel like you were building up your sense of creativity, your purpose as a photographer? Sorry, it's a bit tricky question.
No, I mean, actually what I got from it, and it was kind of incremental, and it was that I really love photography. That I didn't, I stopped being a psychotherapist because I just wanted to commit to the visual arts, and that I really wanted to engage in my passion and what I loved. And my philosophy in life is you have to do what you love doing, otherwise it doesn't work out, we get sick. And so every single project is this project here is as important as my other pieces of work, because it reflects something about me and my history. And of course, as I move through the work, I really like people. I'm always excited to, in each project, I think, who am I going to get to know here?
Yeah. I mean, I remember you described in one of interview, I think it was for PhotoWorks, or where you described this project as, or maybe it was specifically about Alice, but I'm pretty sure Martha are linked together in some way, as it's a project about my daughter, it's a project about my close family, it's a project about me, but it's also a political project as well.
Yeah.
So every single project for you has a purpose, a political message behind it, on top of the emotional and the very personal story which going on.
Every single project has that layer within the project. You know, this project also has that too. You know, we're looking at the vulnerability and and the political landscape of farming at the moment. I was really interested to hear what people had to say about that and how vulnerable they feel within that. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's always there.
Yeah, and then can you just briefly describe, before we move again to the Guernsey, the message behind the Looking for Alice project, the message that you would like people to get out of that specific project? What was it? Well,
you know, sensibly it was about my daughter with Down syndrome and me overcoming my prejudice around that. But the bigger picture was, as I began to resolve that, well, I did resolve that, of course I did, but was that we all feel different. And that we all experience feeling on the outside of life. And so there was a sense that Alice was kind of, in a way, she was the center of that project, and she was teaching us. There was a kind of teaching in that book, and it was about love, and actually it was about we're all in this together. Yeah. Regardless.
Yeah. And then you also did this project, beautiful, beautiful project that I love very much, which is called The Garden. It's quite a new project. Is it an ongoing project? Is it still developing? Are you
There's
still
only one.
Well,
I've just shot the second, finished in the last 2 weeks shooting the second stage, and now I'm in the final next year.
Yeah. So would you like to describe very quickly what this project is about? Because you created this kind of wonderful backdrop where people feel really comfortable and can find themselves into this environment. So just explain how the project came into reality, into fruition.
Yeah, I mean, very briefly, I was, navigating my family through a very difficult crisis, and my son came back from a long-term retreat in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery and said to me, why don't we turn our back garden that had been abandoned for 10 years into a wildflower, kind of rewild the garden. And then when people walk past the garden wall, they might come in to be photographed by you. And it was like a real gift to me. And so that was the vision. And beyond the vision, we didn't think about it. We just got down to it. And the extraordinary thing that happened, we were growing chompichinos and sweet peas, huge sweet pea structures, and poppies like you would never imagine. And the flowers kept coming. And as the flowers kept popping and coming, so did the people. And so the portraits are a response. It was like a kind of the alchemy between people and nature.
Beautiful. And you describe also sometimes your work, and the way I see it, as there's something very spiritual as well. I think I know that faith is very important to you, and I'm not using the word religion because we talked about that last night. But faith is something really that you always linked to your project. That did it. Would you like to describe a little bit about that?
Yes, I think my faith, I came from a kind of atheist family, and I think my upbringing was very traumatic, and we lived in a terrible poverty and homeless accommodation, and my father was a gambler and didn't work and everything else. And I used to find myself sitting in a church, so it was an intuitive response to faith. Sitting in a church and I felt at peace. And it wasn't literally until I was 25 I realised I had faith. I always used to say I was an atheist all the way through my childhood, and I was in a church choir, and and then I realised that actually I had faith in God, because there was a lot of shame around saying that. And so now I'm not. But I don't need to talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it if I'm asked, but it's quiet. I feel very quiet about it. And so
but I think it's attached to your personality as well, this kind of spiritual journey of personal development as well. At the same time, you talk and you photograph people, but at the same time, it's your journey as well. It's your journey as a human being and how you interact with the world and how your belief, whatever it is, sort of engage with the world or find your place in the world. Does it describe it well?
It does describe it very well. That actually, my faith in God, I've taken a Buddhist path. So that's where I go with my faith. And also, so I kind of have a kind of interfaith kind of world, really, which actually is lovely because it's deeply accepting of all faiths. I am deeply accepting of all faiths.
Well, that's good because that's going to set up the backdrop for the Guernsey project, for the love of the land.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you first came back to the island and you've been sort of introduced to all those people? How did it go for you as a sort of personal experience here? Because it's quite a unique environment. I mean, I'm used to it, but for you, it's like, although you came, a couple of times, it's still quite new environment, isn't it?
Well, fortunately, because of the context, because of the actual theme, it felt like coming home. Mm-hmm. And when I say the farm was a happy place for me, it was a very happy place. So it was really exciting for me to be in a farm again. I think farmers are really interesting because they're behind the scenes, aren't they? They're not really seen, they're not really visible. What they produce is so visible.
So essential as well.
And so essential and so visible. I mean, it comes with a cost. It's extraordinary. These people are extraordinary.
So you met a multitude of individuals.
Yeah.
And first of all, I remember you met with this beautiful family, the Watts family.
Yeah.
What was your experience? Because you've got this kind of incredible photo that is one of my favorite in the show as well, and lots of people commented last night during the opening about that photo as well, where you've got the family with the bull and the horse, and you've got the entire family in front of them in this beautiful light. How was your experience with them?
Well, they couldn't have been any more welcoming. To make a project work, you need like a gatekeeper. You need someone to say, okay, come in. And that's exactly what they did. And they were super hospitable and really kind and generous with their time. And they just let me boss them around. And so that's really good. When you take pictures, it's like playtime. Let's go and play. Let's go and see what happens. Let's see what magic comes into the camera. And so they did just that. And so we're sitting around the table and I said, there's something I'd always want to do. And they said, what is it? And I said, well, to have a family portrait of the bull and the horse and the family. And they looked at me and then they said, why not? And the bull was in a compound only used for insemination, so it was kind of a bit crazy to get this bull out, but they did it. They created the scene that I'd always wanted to create. How good is that? And so, the bull was going for the horse. It was really tense, and then we got the shot. And so there were these really intensely joyful moments about the work.
I'd like to go back also to another picture, if you don't mind, because I think we were talking earlier on about the political statement that you can actually insert into your even if they are personal stories and personal emotion, they are political statement. I would like to come back to this beautiful photo of Rachel, who is a young farmer, young woman, dedicated completely to her lifestyle and her work. And you took that photo of her on a tractor. What do you want to say about this photo, and why did you decide to choose that photo at the end in the editing?
Well, actually, it wasn't so much just about this photo. I wanted to choose her. I was very struck by her the moment that I met her. And actually, she reminded me of myself somewhere. There's all this adversity around her in the farming industry. Who would want to wake up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30? In all weathers. Where is the social life? Where is, everything? And but it was her, you know, I really understood her commitment and her passion. And I saw that in myself. So I really identified with her somewhere. And there was this woman in a working context, which has primarily always been about men, and there as she was in this tractor. She reminded me of a suffragette.
Yeah, a tractor being associated for a far too long time now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Associated with male and
the men on it
in general, yeah.
And she just gets on with it. There's something about her that just gets on with it seamlessly. It's like it's a job to do.
Yeah.
So she's, I'm really inspired by her.
And I remember, because a couple of times I was with you while you were shooting as well, and they were like that evening where Rachel's partner was there as well, and we started walking in this sort of field, a dry field actually. Yeah. It was the end of the day. The light was beautiful, and you were still sort of looking for something to happen. And it's very you in terms of your work is very intuitive. You meet people, you engage with people, and then nothing is really planned in advance. You decide when you have a moment, when you see the moment, you start engaging with them and ask them to do things or not, because sometimes it just, this is where you are and I want to take a photo of that, like that. But for that specific moment, I remember sort of asking them, both of them, to walk in the field.
Yeah.
And then you tried a couple of things. You tried with her walking with flowers, etc. But the final shot that actually in the exhibition is when we see Rachel's partner from his back with a kind of, and that's the first photo of the show.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes something quite important in the show. And do you want to explain why this photo is important?
Yes, it's important because it communicates something about the future and the impact of climate change that the farmers will experience, that these young people, this is what they're taking over. They're taking over our mess, actually. The generation before them that's choosing not to engage with the environmental, impact of industry. And the soil was dry. They had no idea when it was going to rain again.
I remember listening to the conversation as well, where they were like actually quite a little stressed because it didn't rain for quite a long time, and they were waiting for the rain to happen.
There was no moisture in the soil, and that's scary. It's just on a very fundamental level, it's scary. And so this is what they're taking over. And so when they were walking together, I was very struck that these are the conversations that they will be having together or on their own. And he's here walking on his own. And this is this you can almost hear, for me, the background noise of, how are we going to do this?
Yeah. I think obviously we're going to invite as many people to come to see this exhibition. What would you like people to get out of this exhibition at the end, when they come and discover this beautiful body of work? What do you hope the people will get? Do you have some kind of message or something which is? Do you understand what I mean?
I absolutely understand what you mean. Well,
we understand each other.
I think I feel that I'd like people. To understand, even this is community, and even though that we can't see them, because what we can see is obviously the milk and the produce, we can't see them, but they're very much here. And it just it woke up my. It just woke me up to. I now have repeated it in this conversation with you, but it is an act of love. The labour is intensive, and they can't go on strike.
Of course not.
They have to get out of bed.
The animals needs to be fed.
There's a calf that needs birthing in the middle of the night. There's a wedding they can't go to. And so their commitment to their animals, that's another aspect of it, was all about animal health and care. I was very struck about also they genuinely care for their livestock. You could see they were engaging with all of them. They knew they had a sense of each personality, and actually the care and the hygiene was, you know, I really recognised that. And things have moved on considerably from when I was a child, because that wasn't evident.
Okay. Well, Siân, thank you so much for bringing us this beautiful body of work in Guernsey and to produce this beautiful body of work. You will be always welcome in Guernsey, you know that.
Feels like my second home now.
So I wish you all the best,
and
thank you again to the Guernsey Museum for producing this exhibition and this interview. Thank you very much, Siân.
Thank you.